Hello and welcome to 315 Voices. I'm your host, Greg Scott. 1 Peter 3:15 reminds us to always be prepared to give an account when someone asks for the reason for the hope that's in us. And today's guest is Gordon Mote. If you recognize the name, then you already know about one of the most accomplished musicians in Nashville. And even if not, then you tuned in today for something really special. Gordon has collaborated over his career with everyone you've heard of, from Brad Paisley and Rascal Flatts to Bob Seger and Kid Rock. And he's given a lot of his time to advancing the kingdom through his work in Christian music, including many years with the Gaither Vocal Band. And he does all of it by giving honor and glory to his relationship with Christ Jesus. I'm so glad you joined the podcast today. I know you're going to enjoy our conversation with the one and only Gordon Mote. Welcome to the podcast today. My friend Gordon Mote's with us. And
Hi, Greg.
We're excited to have you, Gordon. I appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Man, it's great to be with you. Excited about your new podcast.
It's been a great ride already, and it's because of very interesting people like yourself. And our listeners are going to find that out over the next several minutes that we spend together.
Now,
do you like what a cool guy you are? If they didn't know that already.
Do you like the shirt, though? Do you like the colors?
The CPA shirt, only because I think and Gordon and I go back several years to CPA v. Milan in the playoffs. And, I think we're 500 against each other, and then we quit playing. I think that was a good call.
That's right. But, man, when we went to Milan and Greg, you may have to remind me who we played at your place. We didn't play you guys that particular night, the night that I was in the press box.
That's right. Bartlett.
We played Bartlett. That's right. And you guys could not have been any nicer to us. You guys were so kind. We went out on the field before and talked to your coaches. And for those who don't know, I did the PA for CPA football and baseball for a few years. Did football for a couple of years. Did baseball, I guess, for 5 years. But it was our home game, and you guys allowed us to play it at Milan. And I don't even remember what the deal was, why we had to travel to play that game against Bartlett.
I don't remember. Year. It was, I think it was 2020, and everybody was, or it may have been 21, the post-COVID year. Either way, everybody's scrambling for games, and there's cancellations all over the place. And you guys found Bartlett, Engel, and Bartlett's head coach got together, and the thought was, we don't want to be on a bus for 3.5 hours, but if we can find somewhere in between, and we just happen to be in between.
It was awesome.
To be hosts. It was fun.
It was so awesome, and you guys treated us so kindly, and your production staff that do your games were really kind and helped us learn how to use your console and all that. So much so, I loved that little console you guys had, so much so that we got us one for our booth here at CPA. They made some upgrades to our press box, and that's one of the things we got. So anyway, that's how Greg and I met, and of course we've had a friendship ever since. And so thank you for having me on your podcast, buddy.
It's actually our honor to have you on, and to be honest, Gordon, I love having you on because our first couple of episodes have already launched by the time you and I are getting together, and they're both sports guys, but we're not a sports podcast. We love hearing from athletes and coaches, but we're a podcast to hear from a lot of different areas of life, and just people where Jesus Christ has been the thread of their background, and their faith story is interesting to hear. So that's what we're looking forward to hearing from you today.
Yes,
for those of you that didn't get maybe the intro, it's not just sunny where Gordon is. Gordon, you were born 100% blind somewhere in the backwoods of Alabama.
That's right.
And so talk about that, and maybe how that impacted your faith early on.
Well, these glasses just make me cool, Greg. You can't deny the cool factor.
I've already, if you'll send me the link for those, that's what I was going to ask for. But
usually I'm wearing my Meta glasses, and I love those things, but I couldn't put my hands on them, so I just grabbed a pair, because Greg, I really just need to be and look a little cooler than you. That's kind of the only reason that I put these on. No, I was born blind in a little town called Gadsden, Alabama. My mom and dad had two boys, and we were both blind from birth. My younger brother, Michael, lives in the Atlanta area, and he works for a software company making software that makes everyday tasks accessible for blind people. And he's a consultant, and he's way smarter than me. He's an incredible talent, and when he's not doing that on during the week and on the weekends, he works for Learfield Communications. Last year, well, the last several years, he was the producer for the Florida Gators football and basketball. This year, he is doing North Carolina State. So if you're listening to the broadcast and you hear, "Hi, Mike Mote," in the Learfield studios, that's my brother. And he does a great job. He's got a tie line. He's got one end of the tie line, and they've got the other one in Winston-Salem. My brother is just amazingly talented. But both of us, having been born blind, I would say we are both very grateful for our parents, because they never let us use that as a crutch or as an excuse not to accomplish everything that God set out for us to accomplish. They made sure that we were independent, that we learned how to do things for ourselves, and that we didn't depend on other people in an in a fashion where it was just overdone. And we're still both very self-sufficient. I'm married to a wonderful lady. Her name is Kimberly. We've been married 33 years. We have 3 children. We just had our first grandchild. But hey, I take the trash out and help her with the dishes, and of course she does most everything, because I'm an idiot and I don't know how to do a lot of things, or at least I don't do it like she would want me to. She's amazing. But my brother and I both went to a blind school, the Institute for the Blind in Alabama, in Talladega. I went through 2nd grade. In 3rd grade, we all as a group, now my brother's 3 years younger than me, but as a group, there was 7 of us. And as a group, we mainstreamed into the public school system. We were some of the first in the South, but we were among the first to ever do that. That was quite a feat. And we didn't have all of our books in Braille. We didn't have all of our books on cassette. So we had to just listen. And of course, memorization has become a huge part of what I do, being in the music business and working in studios every day. I didn't realize how that would serve me, but God works in mysterious ways. So what I complained about as a kid has served me well as an adult. But I graduated from Emma Sansom High School in 1988, went to Jacksonville State University, and they had quite a few modern technological things that could help us. People could type in notes from a class into a computer and it would spit them out in Braille. They had one of the first Versa Brailles in the country. And that was incredible technology for the time. It was way before the internet. The internet has kind of made everything more of an even playing ground for people with all types of handicaps, or if you want to call them handicaps or whatever. But for me, I use an iPhone probably quicker than anybody. I use VoiceOver, but I have, also use a PC with a program called JAWS for Windows. JAWS stands for Job Access with Speech. So anyway, there's tons of technology to help us. But I got through 3 years at Jacksonville State. I decided to go to Belmont University. And that wasn't just a decision that I made overnight. That was a decision that was a real scary one. But Jimmy Johnson, who is a legendary producer in the business, produced songs like Old Time Rock and Roll by Bob Seger, Brown Sugar, the Rolling Stones, produced all those Dr. Hook records, produced Percy Sledge, all this. Someone hooked us up and said, "You should hear this kid," and told me, "You should go play some of your songs for Jimmy Johnson." And I did. And he told me that I belonged not in Jacksonville, Alabama, but I belonged in Nashville, Tennessee. And he told me, if you go there, everybody will be better than you for about a year or two, and then you'll be better than them. And I took that to heart. I didn't know if he was blowing smoke, but I realized very quickly that he didn't blow smoke. He was a legend. And He moved some huge mountains to enable me to go to Belmont. And that's, of course, where I met my wife. And that's kind of, that's kind of everything in a nutshell. That's kind of how I got in the music business, and
Right.
grateful for Belmont.
Grateful for Belmont. And Belmont's known, for those of you not in Tennessee listening to us, Belmont's known for their music, no doubt. A lot of great producers and music industry individuals have come out of
Oh,
Belmont,
man.
including our friend Gordon Mote.
Well, I went to school with Frank Rogers, and Frank is an incredible producer. And of course, in years to come, I would play for Frank on, like Brad Paisley, who also was a Belmont student, Josh Turner, who was a Belmont student. I worked for Trisha Yearwood on the road, who went to Belmont. We weren't there at the same time, but yeah. So the a little bit of networking happens. Quite a few of us have gone on to have successful careers, and we've even been able to work together.
Well, and go back. I think it's important. Go back for a moment to those parents of yours that allowed you, not just allowed, but almost didn't give you and your brother Mike an option
No, they
to
didn't.
sink or swim.
That's right.
And how empowering and how thankful I know you are for that.
Oh, yeah. And not
now.
only that, but the legacy they left us as far as just teaching us how important a relationship with Christ would be. Because, in our weakness, he is strong. Well, our weakness is pretty visible, but we all have something, Greg, that could keep us from doing what God put us here to do. We could all kind of make an excuse or say, well, we don't have this skill or that skill. But God doesn't call you to do something or open doors for you to do something and then not give you the tools to do it. And Mom and Dad had us in church all the time, and they really did. They were very instrumental in us coming to a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so I'm very grateful for that.
Absolutely, and rightfully so. You credit Jimmy Johnson with moving some things around for you, at least getting you into the Nashville area. And maybe my research has come up a little sideways, but it looks like maybe you're. And I don't like to use the phrase "big break" because you just kind of work, don't you? Until you.
Yeah.
But maybe the first time that people started to know your name, was it the connection with Lee Greenwood in the 80s that did that?
Absolutely. So great story about that. So I was about to graduate from Belmont. I was about to do my senior recital. And one of the professors at Belmont, Marjorie Halbert, Marjorie Halbert is just an amazing person. She's kind of a legend at Belmont. And she had a really incredible show choir there. But not only that, she was just a good person and so talented. And my wife and her knew each other really well. And she knew me too, because I played for a lot of the students there. And I was pretty visible around campus, me and my seeing eye dog Atlas. So Miss Halbert knew that Lee Greenwood was looking for a piano player because she was good friends with Lee's wife, Kim. And so Marjorie told Kim about me. And so that got back to Lee's management. And one thing led to another. And unbeknownst to me, Lee snuck in at my senior recital and saw me play and sing and saw me with the crowd. And of course, I had to do that for graduation credits. I had to get that done. So I graduated. But I didn't know he was there because I couldn't see him. But everybody else knew he was there. And so that's how I got the gig. He saw me and loved what I did, bless his heart. And 2 days after I graduated from Belmont, he called and said, "Hey, I want to hire you to go out on the road." And about a week later, I was on the Lee Greenwood bus headed for New York State.
And just like that.
Just like that. And I would say, too, that I could trace so many of the things I do now and the connections that I made back to Lee. Lee has always flown my flag as high as possible. And he taught me so much, not just about music, but just about life. Taught me like just little things that you would never think of because I'd never traveled, Taught me a lot about working with people. I mean, I learned a lot about that at Belmont too, but it was a huge encourager And he told everybody in this town, he told all of his writers, you need to use this kid. He's amazing. He's going to be the next guy. And, he kept saying it, so they believed it. And one thing led to another, word of mouth. I started playing on all kinds of writers' demos. And of course, that led to me playing on big records, and that opened up so many doors. But again, I can trace so much of what I do even today back to Lee Greenwood and his confidence to recommend me.
It reminds me of a quote I read that you gave one time, that you've always just operated under, I'm going to wait and let the Lord open some doors and opportunities. You've not really been a headhunter seeker. I'm not trying to find my way or push my way into anything. I'm going to let the Lord open the doors and walk into opportunities. That you still operate that way? I'm at this point you can, but you've always done that, haven't you?
I have, because we all have hopes and dreams and wishes and all those things, but there's really not a whole lot you can do to make it happen. I mean, you can make yourself available, but at the end of the day, if you're a Christian, you want what God has for you. You want his best. And so I've always tried to kind of do everything I can to put myself in positions to be used and to be hired, to be noticed, whatever. But I've really tried to make sure that God opened the door and not me. I just think it's so important. And we all fail at this. Sometimes we get ahead of God, but I want what God's best is for me. And I know that if I'm patient, and sometimes patience is not my greatest virtue, but if I'm patient, and I remember, just case in point, I really wanted to work for Dan Huff. He's such an amazing producer, and I work for him a lot now. But when I first started, I'd kind of played on a few hit records, but I'd never worked for Dan. I'd worked with Dan when, as a studio musician, but I never worked for him as a producer. And I remember in the mornings in my quiet time, I just started praying, hey, God, if it's your will, I'd really like to work for Dan Huff. I think that'd be really, really cool to work for Dan. And I prayed that for a while. And I had no way of making that happen. I just prayed that I would. And one day, lo and behold, they called me to come work with him on Faith Hill. I had worked on some Faith Hill stuff before for Byron Gallimore, but never for Dan. And of course, groups change producers. And so Rascal Flatts, I had played on the album Feels Like Today, which had a bunch of hits on it. Fast Cars and Freedom, Skin, God Bless the Broken Road. I had a bunch of big songs on that record. So that record sold a whole lot of copies. But then they changed producers, and their new producer was Dan Huff. So I started working for Rascal Flatts with Dan. And the first record we did was Me and My Gang. And it had a bunch of hits on it. But My Wish for You is the song that I think still is considered a classic from that album. And but you're right. I want God to open the doors and for him to show me what doors to go through. My latest album came out a couple of years ago. It's called Where You Lead Me. And I kind of wrote that about what we're talking about. Where you lead me, I will follow all the way to the end. And I try to live by that best way I can.
Gordon, you've been, like you said, you got your own album. You've been on the road with the most noted gospel group in America in the last quarter century, the Gaithers. You've been a part of a lot of country music albums. What's your favorite thing to do in music? Is it studio work? Is it being out on the road? Is it in small churches? Or what's your very favorite thing about what you do in music?
I don't know if I have a favorite thing. I think the older I get, the more I enjoy staying home. I have a solo ministry, and we used to do about 150 concerts a year. Last year we did 53, I think, and I'd like to do 30. I'd like to, but it's hard to. My manager loves to travel, and I think he wants me to do more shows that I want to do. And the funny thing about that is he's 84, and he's got so much energy. but I am busy doing so many other things. But Bob Rogers and I have been together for over 20 years, and he's an incredible man and wonderful business mind and has a real heart for the Lord. I think my favorite thing, though, if we're, I just love being in the studio, because if I'm playing on someone's session, that's, I love playing on sessions, but I also love producing. And so I get to do quite a bit of both of those things, which is just right up my alley. I like being behind the scenes. And then I do about 30 shows a year with the group Alabama. And that's a lot of fun too, because I don't have to be the boss. I just get on the bus and do what I'm told. And when I get home, there are no responsibilities. I didn't have to do anything. I just showed up and played. When I go out and do my thing, there's a lot of responsibilities, which I enjoy a lot of that. But I think the older I get, the more I want to be home and the less responsibilities I want to have. And I can be the front guy, but I think I'm more comfortable just being behind the scenes.
Has the resurgence, in the last probably 7 or 8, maybe 10 years, we've seen those bands. You mentioned Alabama, but we've seen those bands and those artists, not just in country music, but in all genres, come back around. What's that been like to go, we can do 30 shows? Alabama could probably do more than that if they wanted to get back out on the road.
No question. They could do way more than that. They have so many offers. Their manager, Tony Conway, he has a fun job, but just trying to figure out which shows they should do is difficult. I mean, they turn down way more than they decide to do. But Randy and Teddy still love being in front of the people, and they can sell out wherever they go. They could just decide what they want to do and where they want to go. And it's just like magic. It just sells out wherever they, whatever arena they want to play. But also Teddy and Randy make really good decisions, and they've been doing this over 50 years. And they've got 43 number one songs. Every song we play in the 2-hour show is a song that everybody can sing along to. And we can't play all of the number ones in one night. We can only play about 20 songs or 25 songs. And there's still a whole bunch of hits that people want to hear. So I think as long as they are healthy and the crowds keep coming, I think you'll see Alabama out on the road. But of course, again, time doesn't stand still for anyone. And you never know about our health, any of us. And so I think people knowing they've been doing this for a long time, when they come close, they don't want to miss it. It's like the Eagles.
Sure.
Everybody wants to go see them at the Sphere. They've added more shows. These acts that are, older, been around for a long time, these legendary acts, people just want to see them one more time,
I never have, but there's not an Alabama number one that I wouldn't be able to sing to. You're right. We all know them all, don't we?
Yes, we do. Well, we played not too far from you a couple of years, 3 years ago in New Haven, Mississippi.
You've talked about already following the Lord's call. What are some moments throughout your life, throughout your career, where you look back, and it may not have been an opportunity, it may have been a challenge where God challenged your faith, where you knew my relationship with the Lord either got me through that or got me to that?
Well, I tell you, one of the pivotal things was actually being called into the ministry of traveling and singing, because when that happened in 2004, I guess, man, I had the tiger by the tail. I was the hottest session guy in town. And I was the overnight success that took 10 years to make. But the first number one song I played on was Alan Jackson's "Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning?" And when that happened, and then I started playing on Rascal Flatts, and then I played on John Michael Montgomery, and I played on Lone Star, and I played on, all this stuff started happening. Rodney Atkins, that was my first top 10 song. Mark Wills, Lynyrd, Skynyrd, all this stuff. And I played on a bunch of gospel stuff too. But the secular stuff kind of put me on the map. I played for the vocal band before that, and Mark Lowry and Jeff and Sherry Easter and Karen Peck and some pretty famous gospel musicians. And but when the country and the pop thing started happening, I was so grateful to be probably the hottest guy in town. And I was approached about doing this. Bob Rogers had a record label, and I tried the country artist thing. It didn't really work. Wasn't God's plan for me. And I always thought I was supposed to sing because everybody told me I was supposed to sing. But man, I was having a blast just not being on the road, playing in the studios, being home on the weekends, hanging out, watching football or basketball, baseball, whatever, going to my kids' games, all the things that normal parents do. I was having a blast. And I was kind of the interim worship leader at our church because we were looking for somebody. And so I was kind of serving in my church and just having a blast, being with Kimberly and doing all that. But I felt this calling, I felt this tug. And I remember one night I was out on the swing, out on the porch swing, out on my back porch, listening to the birds and the crickets and listening to the Braves baseball game. And nothing relaxes me like after a long, long day in the studio, coming home, listening to a baseball game. I'm a huge sports fan of all sports, but baseball just goes slow. And I don't know, it's just, I love it. And I'm a huge Braves fan, have been since I was a kid. But I was just sitting out there, Greg, and I just prayed and I said, God, man, I have everything in this world to be happy about, but I feel miserable somehow. So I know I've been trying to talk you out of this for about 9 months. You've been putting this on my heart. So if you want me to travel and make a record and travel and go out there and do this thing, I just need you to give me passion to do it, because I really don't have that kind of passion. Like, I love what I do, but I just can't picture myself doing that. But you probably ought to be careful what you ask for, because God did give me that passion more than I ever thought I would have it. And for the last 20 years, of course, the Gaither platform was amazing. That gave me credibility, and people knew who I was because of those videos and the music, all the things. But what I can tell you about that is, especially as a Christian artist, when you get nominated for that Grammy, people really pay attention to you even more. The streams go up, and people are listening to what you have to say. And that's really what it's all about. It's not about winning the award. It's about just being visible and your faith making you visible. I mean, I work with a lot of secular artists. I still do. I mean, like, just in the next couple weeks, I'm in the studio with Scotty McCreery, Blake Shelton, Dan and Shay. There's a lot coming up, and I'm producing a good bit too. Working with Tyler Hubbard on coming up. Just a lot of artists that are secular artists. So what I hope is that I can minister to them or be a light to them without even having to say anything. I hope that for all of us who are Christians, I hope that our testimony can be seen and heard without us having to tell them what our favorite scripture is. Now, when we get that opportunity, we should take it and be ready to tell people what we believe and why we believe what we believe. But people are just watching. They don't really care what we have to say. They just are watching us to see how we react and to see what we do and what we say, how we treat others. I think that's the big thing. That's really what it's all about, just loving people. And so I hope that my platform, whatever it is on a given day, whether it's me producing or playing on sessions or traveling, I hope that God enables me to be a light, because we sure have a lot of hopeless stuff going on around us. This is a lost world. And so anything we can do to put something positive into the air, Greg, that's why I do my social media. I've had a lot of people over the years tell me that I should do better with my social media. And I finally kind of acquiesced to that. And it's all about just making people smile. Like, I do stuff with all kinds of crazy people. Like I have a series called the 4-Note Challenge that's on my Facebook public page and my Instagram. If you want to follow me at official Gordon Mote, we've got a X page or Twitter or whatever at Gordon Mote. We've got all the things. TikTok, we have that. Like last week's was, or whenever it was with Michael Bublé. I've had everybody on, from Sandy Patty to Brad Paisley to Vince Gill to Bill Gaither to, I mean, you name it. We've had all kinds of people on, and we do all kinds of crazy stuff, just to make people smile. There's a video on there of me telling people what I think, what a blind man sees when tennis is on television. And that video is almost at 5 million views. Because people
I saw that one the other day. I fell down a little bit of a Gordon Mote rabbit hole preparing for our conversation.
Yeah.
And I found that one, and I said, "Yep." And I think it was the first one, if maybe
Yeah.
pinned to
Yeah.
your social
I'm
media.
sure it
So it's
is. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
people love
it's
that, and they just want us to smile. They just want to laugh, and we just need more
yep.
laughter. So I hope that God continues to give me ideas and a platform to do that.
You're a professional, and you can tell because you handed me an underhand pitch for what our podcast is named off of.
Yeah,
First Peter
that's
3:15
right.
says, "Always be prepared to give an account when you're asked." But what are you asked about? You're asked for the reason for the hope that you have within you, and
That's
that's
right.
exactly what you were talking about. Is just live a life that looks a little bit different
Yeah.
than everybody else, to the point where somebody says, "Why are you always so joyful, happy? Why is it that you talk this way, that you don't talk that way?"
Hmm.
Well, I'm glad you asked, friend. And it looks like you're in a position that you want to say, "I'm glad you asked, friend."
That's exactly right. I remember I was working with Kid Rock quite a few years ago. I've worked with him a lot, but this is one of the first times Bob Seger kind of hooked us up. I'd played on some stuff for Bob Seger, and they were doing a duet. And of course, ever since then, I guess that's been 15 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. I don't know. I've worked with Kid Rock since then. Bobby's become a good friend of mine, and he's he's a person that we feel the same and think the same. But I remember when we were first working together, he said, "Dude, man, you're so busy in the studio. Why do you travel and sing like that? Like you never have a day off." And I got to tell him why I feel strongly that I should do that. And this was years ago. I was hitting it at a really, really fast clip. I still am, but I'm just doing
Here you are.
more production and more. I mean, but I'm still, I still have to struggle to find a way to have a Sabbath. My wife has kind of challenged me on that, and she's right. And that's not just a suggestion; that's a commandment. And I really, really have struggled with that because there's always something to do. And when you're in ministry, you're working on Sundays, and so it's just that's hard. But I was able to, witness to Kid Rock. So you just never know who's going to ask you and how the conversation's going to come up. But if we're ready
Right.
for it, and a lot of times we don't even think we're ready. We want to panic, but I feel like God, if we're sincere, I think God gives us the words. It's the Holy Spirit speaking through us. It's not us
That's
speaking.
true.
So
Yeah, it's a great point. And by the way, you name drop like I take drinks of water, and it's no problem to you. You just, oh well, Lee Greenwood, Brad Paisley, Michael Bublé, Kid
I've
Rock.
been very fortunate. I guess I don't think about it so much. I guess one of these days I'll sit out on my back porch and think about all the people that I worked with. I've been so blessed to work with some of the biggest names in pop music, country music, Christian music. And I get starstruck too. I mean, the first time I worked with James Taylor, I was like, oh my gosh, or Lionel Richie, I remember that day. It was just okay. Can't complain. I have done way more than I ever dreamed of doing.
Right.
I've worked with every country act, legendary, and so many of the new acts, and I've seen these no names become huge stars. Guys like Dan and Shay, I knew them when they were just trying to get something going. And now they're one of the biggest acts, and they've never changed. Like they're the same. Blake Shelton, I've worked with Blake since the early 2000s, and he's the same idiot that he was back. I mean, just a funny, oh my gosh, and him and Gwen together are so great. I love her. Played on her record last year, her new album. Um, it is such a fun thing to love these people and work with these people, but you forget that they are major stars because to me, they're just friends, like
Sure.
I could,
Yeah.
you know, like while we've been chatting, I've gotten several texts from people like that, like, how's the new grandbaby? It's just relationships. Nashville is to a lot may seem like a big city, but it's a small community. The music family here, I'm so grateful and blessed to be a part of. The greatest musicians in the world and the greatest songwriters in the world, the greatest engineers, the greatest producers, the greatest musical minds. So many of them live in this town. And to be a part of what's going on here, man, I count my blessings every day because there are so many people who are here doing what I'm doing, and just to get the calls that I get and get to work on the things I get to work on, I never, ever want to take that for granted. I just don't ever want to just phone it in. I always want to be in the moment and do my very, very best.
Well, and I'll tell you, those names, they name drop Gordon Mote. Let's be honest. They all say, and no joke, they will all say, "Hey, you're the guy. You said that there for a while. You were the guy, but you're the guy. I want to have a Gordon Mote keyboard on my album." And as I looked into your name over the years, you definitely were the guy. So tell me the difference, maybe, and I didn't give you this question beforehand, but you usually don't need much. You're sharp. You can answer fast. Tell me the difference in a crowd. And I know all musicians, whether they are sight impaired or not, the crowd really affects a production, especially a live production.
Oh, yeah.
But between a Gaither church auditorium full and an Alabama outdoor auditorium full, you still get the same feeling in a different way, though, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Because those Gaither crowds, those arenas are packed too, just like the Alabama, in the 90s and the early 2000s. It was the whole homecoming group. There would be 15 artists, and he would play 20,000 seat arenas.
Are you a faith-based business or ministry looking for more traffic? Or maybe you're looking for a specific target audience in order to expand your efforts in reaching more people with the gospel. 315 Voices would love to partner with you in telling the stories of those who live out loud in order to spread the hope we find in Jesus Christ on our podcast. Reach out today via email to greg@315voices.com, and let's share those stories together for those that are prepared to give that account for the hope that's within. We would love for you to be a part of 315 Voices.
I've been fortunate to produce all the Gaither Vocal Band music for the last 10 years. Bill will be 90 this year, and I've learned so much from him. He still has more energy than anybody in the room. And he doesn't need to do it anymore. He's not had to do it for a long time. But, nobody would blame him if he wanted to sit out on his front porch and just kind of take life, in and enjoy the dogs and the kids and the grandkids and all the things. But Bill's still very passionate. And, turn that around and you talk about a group like Alabama. I mean, Randy and Teddy, they don't have to do it either. Those guys, they're not chasing money. They feel like they have something to say. So when you're around people like that and producers and artists that don't have to do it, but they do it because of the love of the music and the love for the people and the love for their platform and what they have to say, that brings a lot of energy into a studio or a stage.
So how do you keep your faith walk sharp? You talked earlier about a quiet time and about the difficulty for a guy like you to be on the road on a Sunday quite often. How do you keep your faith walk sharp?
Well, I'm always in a Bible plan. This year, Brentwood Baptist Church is doing a Bible plan as a whole church, so I'm doing that. The last couple of years, I did the Bible recap, Tara Lee Cobble's Bible recap, chronological Bible in a year. This year, it's the Lumineers Bible plan that Brentwood Baptist is doing. When I'm home, I always try to make sure I'm at church and even try to serve if I can, because I'm out of town so much. So if they need somebody to play or whatever, Travis Cottrell is such an incredible worship leader, and he's at Brentwood Baptist in Nashville here. And of course, my daughter is married to his son, so we're pretty tied together. We met Travis and Angela in college. Kimberly and I did when we were at Belmont, and we all went to church together at Two Rivers back in the day. So it's kind of a full circle thing, and it's a lot of fun. But I always try to be in the Word. I always try to, listen to the teaching of great pastors, podcasts and that kind of thing. And my wife and I, when I'm home, and even when I'm on the road, over the phone, we try now. Sometimes we might miss a day, but we try really hard to pray together every day. And I think that's a really good way to start a day. Anybody that's been married as long as we have, you've gone through valleys, and you've been on mountaintops, and you go through seasons of marriage. But Kimberly is just an amazing human being, and I just here recently, we've kind of implemented a plan to where we pray together every day. I wasn't good at that. I would do my Bible plan, she would do her Bible plan, and we'd come together and talk about it from time to time. But just over the last little bit, we have made sure that every morning we pray together and start our day like that. And I think that is a real difference maker because you start agreeing together. You start your day like that. And
Yeah.
I hate that I didn't do that for a long time. That's one of my biggest regrets. But I would tell anybody that is a difference maker. That's a game changer when you do that.
You know, I had a pastor one time in a small group make a statement. He was an experienced pastor and said, "I've never had to counsel a husband and wife who were both advancing in their own faith walk. When they were both strong in their faith walk and close to the Lord, it's hard to be close to the Lord each individually and together and then have marital trouble on top of that."
Yeah. Well, I would say it is a game changer. And I think, and you know this because you're delving into a few other things. The more you try to further the kingdom, the more the enemy will attack you. And so, while we need to have our eyes open, we also don't need to fear that because God is bigger than all of that stuff. And I'm preaching to me more than anybody because it can be scary and it can be discouraging. But I feel like we just don't have a whole lot of time before Jesus comes back. And so I want to be found faithful. I want to finish the race well and all of those things. So grateful for the opportunities that God has given me for sure.
Yep. And it's taking what he's given you. You said you always walked into doors for the opportunity that God laid out. But at the same time, I think he's given you opportunities, Gordon, because you've been a steward of them. And there's certainly something to that.
Well, I've tried really hard. The Bible tells us to whom much is given, much is required. And I feel like I've been given so much. And so seriously, I just want to be found faithful. I mess up every day. I make stupid mistakes. I say stupid things I wish I could take back. I make mistakes every day, but I'm so grateful that grace is sufficient for me and for you and for anyone who needs it. And we all need it.
Amen. I know I do.
Yes, sir.
And you're right. We all do. When I met you, when you were the first blind PA announcer that I'd ever met, I don't know if there's a group of you out there, if there's a fraternity.
No, I've never heard of anybody else, but I'll tell you what made that work. I had a really great bunch of people, some spotters and any radio guy. I was talking to Eli Gold. Eli and I are buddies, and he was like, "How did you do it?" And I was like, "Well, I had really great spotters." I said, "That's how it worked for you all those years." He said, "You dang right. You can't do it without the spotters." But man, we had a good time doing that. We really did.
Your spotters never gave you poor information on purpose, did they?
Not on purpose, but they did give me some information that might not have been as accurate as if we'd have waited maybe a tick or two longer. We might have had it a little more accurate, but they did great. They were so amazing, and a lot of people never even knew I was blind. Anyway, we love CPA. I know Drew was on your podcast.
Yeah, Drew Maddox. Great interview.
Was he dressed as well as I am in his CPA garb, or did he? Because
he did not go CPA on me. He went neutral, and he had the Good Pasture jersey over his left shoulder. By the way, I just want to let you know.
That's not a good play, Drew. That's not a good play. Drew was our head basketball coach for a long time, and we had some great teams. Drew is such a motivator.
Well, all of our guests on 315 Voices go through a 315 challenge.
Oh, here we go.
And the three, I'm going to let you take your pick.
Okay.
So, and listen, everybody didn't get this treatment, so this is special treatment. So either or, the three books outside of Scripture that you would say have impacted you the most, or just because of your notoriety as being Gordon Mote, and you may not be able to pick your three favorite songs that you worked on or collaborations that you got to do.
Oh, dear. Three favorite collaborations. Well, my new radio single on my new record is a song called Walking Each Other Home, and I got the Alabama guys to come in and sing on it and play on it, the whole band. song called Walking Each Other Home. It's on my album Where You Lead Me, and you can get it wherever you listen to music. Shameless plug. But
Shameless indeed, but
any
that counts.
any digital music service you decide to use, you can find Gordon Mote, and you can find that song. Man, I've done more than I ever dreamed. We got to work with Dan Huff on his new solo record, and it was so amazing because Dan is such a legend in our business. Not only did he ask me to play on his record, but he asked me to do his one tour date, which was at 3rd and Lindsley. But that was such a fun thing. Working with Bill Gaither is amazing. Getting to produce the Gaither Vocal Band, and I don't know how I could say what my favorite. I'm producing people that I never even thought I would meet them. Like Sandy Patty.
Right,
I'm producing a new Sandy Patty record. Producing a new Lori Morgan record that's coming out. I've worked with so many big people in the country music.
everybody. Just say everybody.
Well,
I think you've worked with everybody that's passed through Nashville.
But I got asked today to produce a new Christian hymns album on Lee Greenwood. And that's kind of a full circle thing for me. So I'm really excited about that. So many friends in this business, musicians, artists, producers, managers, you name it. I think I have to pinch myself every time I'm on stage with Alabama, because that's the soundtrack of my life, dude. Being from Alabama, and doing all that, and having then worked with them in the studio, and I couldn't believe that. And now, I probably talk to Teddy almost on a daily basis, and I talk to Randy a good bit too.
If you thought the 3 was hard, the 1 for you is going to be impossible. I don't know if you peeked ahead at the question, but if I said, hey, get your phone out, find the most famous person in there that would hit you back. You just listed all of them, but who goes to the top of that list?
Oh, jeez. Well, Blake and Michael have been on The Voice, so maybe them. I don't know. Reba? I don't know. I'll go with Blake. Who knows? I don't know.
Who knows?
It's one of those things, but they're just friends. Like, I don't think about, I have so-and-so in my phone or whatever. But it is weird when one of my kids, they'll say something, and Ashton said, hey, Dad, Riley Green's going to be blah, 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 blah. Well, I text him, and he's looking over at me going, you're texting Riley Green? You have his number too? So it's still, they're kind of used to it, but it still takes.
And Greg Scott. Greg's in your phone.
Greg Scott is in my phone, not only his phone number, but his email address. That's huge.
The 5 I love. Now, the 5 minutes, if you could choose anybody in history, it could be someone that you knew, someone you've just read about or heard of, anybody in history that you could spend 5 minutes with, who would you choose?
Well, if Jesus is somebody we can choose, but I look forward to spending eternity with him. But if we're talking about people, earthly people, I would pick 2. I would pick Frank Sinatra and Muhammad Ali. And I got to meet Muhammad Ali once, but it was only I only got to talk to him for a minute or so. But I would love to chat with him, and I'd love to chat with Frank Sinatra.
Good choices. And of course you did. Yeah, I met him once. Of course you did.
Yeah, well, it was at the grand opening. I was with Lee Greenwood back in the day. It was at the grand opening of the Ted Williams Museum. And so that night we got to meet all these baseball legends, I mean, you named the legend, and they were there for Ted Williams. It was just because I'm a huge sports fanatic anyway.
Yeah.
Football, basketball, baseball, you name it. I love it so much. We're huge Alabama fans around here. Football, basketball, baseball, softball, we love it. But we love our pro teams too. It's hard to watch the Titans these days, but musicians love athletes, and athletes love musicians. But we got to meet so many cool people. I'll never forget that night. That was a cool night.
I bet. Listener, is there anything that we skipped? We wanted to hear about your story. We've certainly appreciated the time with you, but is there anything you want to make sure you tell about Gordon before we go?
Man, I would just say we love playing events. So if you're a church or you're corporate, you think you could use me as a speaker or to motivate any, your corporate event, we do a lot of those things too.
Yeah.
I love to visit churches I love doing all those things. And I would just point people to my website, gordonmote.com, GORDONMOTE, gordonmote.com, and point people to my social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We do X, we do all the things. So if you want to keep up with what I'm doing and what I'm into, follow me on social media. We'd love to get you to follow us and like the content and hopefully be encouraged by it.
And I know we've got some listeners that may be outside of Nashville or Tennessee or outside the music industry who are just learning about you with our conversation. And if you haven't done so already, take a moment to just go and listen to Gordon and his musical talent that God's blessed him with, because it's unbelievable. The 4-note challenge to me is just, I have, my jaw is just as far down as Michael Bublé's or as Brad Paisley's when you get done with those. Those are fun to watch.
Well, they're fun to do, and it's all about the personality of the people you're doing it with. And we've got some really good ones coming up too. So keep following us on social media. Listen to my music on any digital streaming service. We're all over YouTube as well. So if you want to find me, you can find me. But Greg, thank you for the time. Thanks for letting me be a part of your podcast. And I wish you many blessings, both in your podcast and your personal life, all the new things you're doing. God's really using you, man. And so kudos to you for following his call, my brother.
Well, I get to say, if someone were to ask me who's the most famous person in your phone, it'd be tough to not include you in my thoughts. Maybe that's it. I know Gordon Mote.
I don't know about that. Well, thank you, buddy.
The pleasure has been mine. Obviously, God has used you over your career, and I pray he continues to do so. But we certainly appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thank you, Greg. See you next time.
Man, I hope you enjoyed our time today with Gordon as much as I did. I know that I was blown away with how God has been faithful to Gordon throughout his career by opening doors and allowing him to just walk through and serve with some of the biggest names in the music industry across all genres. But I'm more inspired by how Gordon never makes excuses, and he brings a joy that others will no doubt feel just by being in the room with him. And then they can ask about that hope in Christ that drives him. So like today's episode, push the link out on all of your social media platforms, subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your downloads, and share today's inspiring episode with someone you know in order to encourage and inspire them. And then join us again as our next guest will be prepared to give the reason for the hope that's within them on the next episode of 315 Voices.